Hello again, students. So this is part of my general feedback, part 2. So I can take a little bit more time here. So in the last one, I was saying that the first sentence of your synthesis doesn't need this. A main point in this research is in these resources is blah, blah, blah. A different point in these is that just say the point and then tell me that the articles or sources that discuss that point. That's more direct. This clause makes sense in a annotated bibliography, but not in a paper. So using a quote, remember your quote sandwiches. So after you say a quote, don't say, let's go down here. Don't say that it proves your point. You're not trying to prove that you're right. What you're trying to do is support your opinion. So here, we have the authors mentioned that something. This doesn't prove anything. So if we just say the second part, this is a real problem at Sac City and has great consequence on students' career. So we don't need this kind of language. This proves that. Let's see. Here's a quote from Goggins, a nice motivational quote from Goggins, but then the student says, I can relate myself with that quote. And then it explains the quote, it paraphrases the quote. The writer tells us why we don't need to give up if we fail. But we don't need this because the quote should be clear, right? I know you relate with that because you gave the quote. So instead, if you give your analysis, if I gave up, I was not going to be able to finish my class, right? That's the reason why you're giving the quote. So try not to prove anything. And here, I think this one doesn't have one of those. Defining blind spot, yes. So a lot of you are using the term blind spot. If you use the term blind spot, this gives you an opportunity to have a short paragraph about blind spot, but it has to be clear to the reader. Remember, to me. So as if I didn't read the blind spot book. So you have to choose a quote or a paraphrase that makes it really clear. And sometimes it's not so clear. So this one here, this is a definition. Those writers wrote, as with many so-called illusions, this effect really demonstrates the success rather than the failure of the visual system. The visual system is not very good at a physical light meter. So it's talking about a blind spot, but you have to know the larger context of that spot in the blind spot book to understand this. So make sure that the quote that you choose really defines it, or paraphrase the section. Paraphrasing blind spot and giving them credit gives you a nice short paragraph, and you can be clear because you're using your words rather than trying to hunt for a specific quote that says exactly what you see. The rest of this is clear, but the quote is kind of confusing. Okay, so hopefully you found these two general pieces of feedback helpful. I look forward to your next set of drafts. I didn't stop it yet.